Deb Highlander, I see you, girl. Looking to see who's all coming in here, ready to rock and roll today. Hey, girl, I see you in the chat. Hope everyone's enjoying some nice weather for once. I don't know what the heck is going on. Yeah, you know it, Brian. I'll tell you what right now. Why can't it be warm in Connecticut? Because we're playing softball and we're still using hand warmers. That's how bad it is. Oh, I wonder where is everybody from? 68, Deb. Okay, girl. Mm-hmm. Good. Ready to get Financial Sense up and running. Yes. Boy, we're going to talk about how that workflow and the client's so good. Kristen's in Central Florida. Probably really nice there. It is sunny today. I'm very happy about that. Super pumped about that part. Super pumped. Oh, there's Natalie. Natalie's here. Her hands up. There she is. We've got about 3 more minutes before we get started, but just wanted to let you guys in early. Yeah, warming up in Ontario. I'm ready for boat season, personally. Ready to go. Amanda's here. Paula. Cool. Nick. My guy, Nick. That's right, Nick. We need to get things going, my guy. Yeah, Edmonton weather is confused. Yep. Yeah, it's menopause in Edmonton, it appears. Hot, cold, all that kind of stuff. So fun. Still got some people rolling in, ready to make it happen. I hope everybody had a successful softball season in which you did taxes, or softball season in which you did bookkeeping, or whatever it is you might do. Yeah, you did, Nick. We're filling buckets with money. That's what we do, folks. If you're not filling your buckets with money, we got to talk. That's what we're trying to do, filling our buckets. Yeah, and definitely before we get started, I want you guys to know, listen, I want to be interacting with you as much as I can. So if you're putting stuff in the chat based on maybe some of the things I'm saying that you like or don't like, I don't either way, happy to hear from you. Um, just want to make sure this is an interactive session and we're all thinking together and we're all trying to just get it done, planning together throughout this webinar. So don't be shy, throw it in the chat, or if you have questions, stick them in the Q&A, put the questions in the chat, wherever you put them, I'm going to look for them and hope that I can help you move forward with your firm. That's the whole goal, folks. Really the whole goal. All right, still some people rolling in. I love it, folks. You're all getting here. Ready to make it happen. I hope, yeah, put in the chat if you don't mind. All the old judges coming in right now. How was your softball season in which you did taxes or bookkeeping? How did it go for you? Our thumbs up, our thumbs down. It was awesome. It was terrible. It was okay. Those kind of things. We're going to talk through some of that stuff today. All right, it is noontime and it is time to rock and roll for sure. Busy, Angie. I love it. That's okay. You know what I like to say to people? I don't want to be busy. I want to be productive. And that's what workflow is going to help do for you if you're doing it. Nice. Turned up to 11 and very profitable. I love it, Brian. That's good stuff, my guy. I love it. Oh, it's going to start in India. Good. Still work. Yep. Canada. Yeah. You guys are still going through June. Was my rumor I heard. I think that's just mean, but it's okay, right? If we're getting things done. So welcome to all of you here today. talking about optimizing workflow and the key to successful client relationships. And the reason why I believe workflow is so critical is because the way we have our workflow, how we onboard clients, how we manage the work through the process, if we have really good workflow and systems in place, the client relationship is going to be a much better than if we're not on the same page. And I find that workflow, and we'll talk about some good stuff, some bad stuff on what kind of works. So I'm excited to be here today. So for those of you who may not have heard me speak before, my name is Dawn Brolin. I am the designated motivator for accounting professionals. My goal, I found this passion that I wanted to help my fellow practitioners while I was helping myself get my systems in place to be able to build my business so that I could volunteer coach college softball because it is a passion of mine. I love the game, but I love the kids more. Loving to be able to take young ladies and help them grow. So when they leave the program, they're better for it. And that's just been my passion. And I want to do that for you guys in the accounting profession and whatever it is that you're doing. I do have my own firm, Powerful Accounting, out of Windham, Connecticut. I'm also the president of the Accounting Cornerstone Foundation, and that is an organization that sends people to their first in-person conference so that they're able to get around folks like you. That's how I met Deb Highlander. That's how we meet people and we encourage each other and we promote each other and support each other. And that means everything, in my opinion, right? So that's been an amazing foundation that we raise money to be able to send people. And we're sending 12 people this year. We just actually this week finalized our 3 that are going to Scaling New Heights. And so you can check out our organization. People can apply to if you on this call have never been to in-person learning, whether it's Scaling New Heights or Intuit or it's a QuickBooks Connect or it's we're going to the NAEA Tax Summit this year. We're sending people to ZeroCon this year. Really just trying to help people get around other people. That's a really important foundation. I'm also a member of the Intuit Tax Council, ADP Accountant Advisory Board with my boy Nick. We're in the ADP Council together, advisory board, and so on and so forth. So excited to be here today. Been growing my business since 1999. In July will be 25 years, a quarter of a century. I have been working so hard, and I really found that over the course of time, I found out and realized how important a good workflow is. If I don't have a good workflow, my clients could get frustrated. Having a structured sequence of steps that will take guides and tasks from start to finish. So my staff allows them to really be able to accomplish the work they need to accomplish in order for them to have success and have that great relationship with the clients. And that's one of the reasons why our firm has moved, especially for our business clients, to relationship pricing. We want to build good workflows so we can have better relationships because we're streamlining processes, minimizing oversight, errors, maximizing the productivity. So if we're having that good workflow that is consistent, clear, and effective, that's going to positively impact our relationship with the clients. I don't know about you, but I've had situations where when I didn't have the systemized tasks and procedures, when I didn't have that as part of my deal, there were so many drawbacks with my manual processes that it took us so much longer to accomplish the tasks, and sometimes even have to go back to the client because maybe we didn't ask for certain things that we should have. So when we're having the workflow being consistent, clear, and effective, it's a smooth, I call it smooth sailing for the clients. And that's the kind of atmosphere we want to create when it comes to our workflow. Now, I find this to be kind of a funny little, I know you'll get annoyed by Michael constantly making that face because it's just going to replay, but a broken workflow or a bad one or no workflow, folks, unhappy clients and an unhappy team. So we want to make sure that we are moving in that direction and having the ability to have that be clear and concise. So what is a bad workflow? I am the queen of bad workflows in the past. I would make exceptions to my own rules. And when I would do that, we would end up having, well, honestly, a lot of confusion. We wouldn't be billing people. We would miss payments to pay people. A bad workflow is when it's different every time. Those exceptions that you make because you saw someone out at dinner, for instance, and they're like, oh, hey, Brolin, can you be my tax person this year? Sure, just shoot me a text. We'll get it taken care of. X, and we'll talk about what a good workflow looks like. That's a bad one. And that is inconsistent. That's not the way I should be handling onboarding a client, is by them texting me. Because you know what happens? I get in the way. A bad workflow is when the client isn't sure what the pricing structure is or what the expectations are. So what does that mean? You've got to have a workflow on pricing. Now, we'll talk about that for a second, because that's a hot topic always in every webinar, is pricing. And people are always struggling with pricing. So to define a pricing structure so that you're not stumbling over yourself is super important. I know for myself, I started to decide that, okay, listen, I'm going to set up a pricing structure for my tax returns that are going to be by the form. What does that do? It sets an expectation. Listen, here's my pricing. It's done by the form. You provide a prior year tax return. I outline the price based on the forms that they had the previous year, setting the expectation with them. Really important to say, hey, if there's something different this year than you had last year, the price is going to be different, folks, right? So if the client doesn't understand the pricing structure, or I don't set those expectations for them, that's a terrible workflow. It's a piece of my workflow that I have to make sure I nail down. No idea what past year's tax return looks like. So do you have a really good workflow to obtain a copy? And I'm sure not everybody on here are tax preparers, so I'll try to keep it between bookkeeping and tax to make sure we cover everybody here today. But what is your workflow to gather the prior year tax return so that you can give a price for a tax return? Because you know what's going to happen if people tell you, oh, I just have a 1040. And then you go in there and you see they have dispositions, they have a real estate, they have a rental property they forgot to tell you about. What's your workflow to take a look at that prior year return? What is your workflow for that? If we don't have a good workflow, the team isn't able to jump in and help effectively. Great example. Tracy went on vacation for 2 weeks during tax season this year. She went away for 2 weeks. But because our workflow is so systematized, Nicole was able to jump in and help out. So if we didn't have a defined workflow with how, when a new client, because she sometimes is like, hey, we got a new client. I know the process. I'll let Tracy know to get them onboarded. Or Nicole can do that herself. It also helps the team think about yourself as obviously you're part of the team, right? So we have this process. So now when it's time, when Tracy's away and maybe Nicole's busy doing something else, I then follow the workflow, because guess what happens when Tracy returns back from vacation? We don't have to jump on a call for 2-3 hours to figure out where everything's at. She can just jump right into Financial Sense and say, okay, I can filter my view. Let me see how many 8879s is Tracy waiting on because of our workflow. I'll show you a little bit of that as we keep moving forward. But understanding that we are able to jump in key situations because we all know the workflow. It's all automated. It's all put into Financial Sense, into our workflow tool. So we're all good. The other thing about the bad workflow, and this is where that client relationship comes in, the client is going to be annoyed in communication and not getting what they thought they would. So if we're not setting expectations, we're not having them understand pricing, we don't explain to them what the process is to have us get their work done, whether it's a new bookkeeping client or it's a new tax client. And those things are really, really critical for us as we are moving forward with this bad workflow. These bad habits, these exceptions, all those kind of things cause, guess what? The biggest word ever, chaos. We are causing and creating chaos when we have a bad workflow, period. Okay. So we're going to talk about an interesting case. I'm calling case studies, or case studies about me on a bad workflow. And this is going to be the first example we're going to talk about. And here is where this can cause real conflict with clients. So in the past, I was part of an accounting firm, and the way we handled accounts receivable was a heavy manual process, and made everyone uncomfortable. We were uncomfortable, the client's uncomfortable, because what happened was every Monday, all the partners, and there were 3 total, would meet for 2 hours to review the AR. Now, some of you may be doing that right now. Some of you may be doing this. And maybe something like, yeah, we used to do that too. And I'd love for you to throw in the chat if you're like, yeah, I hear you here. The partners would meet for 2 hours, review the AR line by line, and assign, okay, well, Brolin, that's your client. So you did that work. That's your invoice that you sent out. You need to collect that. And we would sit there. We'd each have copies of the AR. We would highlight them. And then we would say, okay, what's going on? And so you'd have to kind of like explain to the other partners why those people hadn't paid. And it was just an uncomfortable meeting. And then you would go depart from the meeting. You'd have to call or email, all those kinds of things with the client. No one wants to talk about that. It's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to talk about money. It's a sensitive thing. And so that bad workflow of AR, I knew I was just not going to do that again. So one of the ways I implemented was we started to take, so the evolution of this bad workflow to turn it into a good workflow was manual, meeting, calling, accounts receivable, ick. Left that, implemented a new solution. I'm going to take payment authorizations up front. So one of our processes until we changed it this year, actually, only took 24 years to figure this one out, guys. Hopefully I can save some of you something, some kind of time. And so what we decided to do was take the pre-authorizations, which we said, okay, well, we're going to at least have your payment info on file. I'll shoot you as a courtesy. The payment authorization also said on it, as at time of service, you will be billed. You'll be charged. We're going to process your payment when services are rendered. So we had permission to do the work and just charge their card or their ACH or whatever. And I was always like, I kind of want to send the invoice ahead of time and just give them, hey, listen, I'm going to process these payments tomorrow. Just want to give you a heads up on the invoice. Still manual. See how involved I still am in that conversation and in that process. And I said, you know what? We need to change this. So in 2023, we moved to relationship pricing where our clients, our business clients that we work with regularly, pay on the first of every month. And it's a spread out over the course of a contract of a year. And that's how we do their stuff. And that was a great improvement in 23. Then we decided this bad workflow habit had to go away. I needed to go away. So in 2024, I made my clients prepay. All my tax clients, before I'm going to touch your tax return, you're going to prepay. And I implemented a tool for that. I implemented Ignition, which would allow me to change my habits to a good workflow. And so we did that this year. And I want to see here, I have a couple people that are in the chat. I just, I know you all can read it. And I don't have to read for you, but Nick was saying how he started collecting payment up front, 80% acceptance rate. Now the small subset of collections next year, the goal is 100% up front. Hard to charge legacy clients who don't like change, which I can totally get that. And that's the key, right? Making changes that can be uncomfortable. That's the key, is your mindset on changing your workflow and actually defining your workflow. By the way, I wonder if there's anyone on here who really doesn't have their workflow really lined out. But making that change for us, I was like, it's just, this is what we're doing. And then we had a couple people, I think maybe 2 people, who were like, Dawn, I know in the past you would charge me when I got my refund. Can you do that? And I know these people. I'm like, they've been with me for years. And I'm like, you know what? We'll make an exception in this case, but we had a process for it. They had to call. So in our Ignition proposal, there's a video. So I get to spend 5 minutes explaining the change in my business model. That's a really big tip for you guys. When you're making changes to your business model. And it's okay for you to make changes that are better for you and your firm. Sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to fix our workflow because we're concerned about the client and how the client's going to feel and all that stuff. And I appreciate and respect that. But when you're able to make a statement like, I am changing my business model, is very different than just, hey, I need you guys to pay up front. And I spent time explaining it to them. And while I made that workflow change, I also said to them, hey, just an FYI, I'm not in a, I guess, like a give and take. I'm not going to increase your prices this year. What do you think that means when someone says that? I am not going to increase your prices this year. That means next year you better be ready because the price is going up. Because every year I do a price increase. That's just part of my process. We do a price increase every year. So, and it was just a really great way to do it. Nancy says, we did prepay this year too. Such an improvement. Only a few people commented they didn't prefer. Love that. I think sometimes when we're looking to make a change, we're saying, oh my goodness, this is going to be awful. I'm going to lose all my clients. I know that that's how I was in the beginning. I was like, I'm like kind of really worried about this. Should I really change my workflow to have them prepay? And I said, you know what? No guts, no glory, baby. When I played college basketball only for 1 year, because I didn't like to play defense. In high school, I just outscored the other team. So I didn't really have to play defense. But in college, you got to play defense. But anyway, but at the end of the day, we have to give ourselves that permission, right? And have that uncomfortable feeling I don't even know why I brought up that basketball point, but whatever, guess that doesn't matter. But anyway, so I made a shift to that. And we're doing the prepay and we don't want to make assumptions. So prepay, I love that, Nancy. I love to hear that. Sarah says at my old construction job, I would sit down with the president for hours to decide each bill. Sarah, he hated it and put it off until the last minute. I would have 30 minutes to process 3 hours of paperwork. Oh, I feel you. So obviously, bad workflow. Got to make a change. Okay. Here's another one. Here's another bad workflow. Not a great experience for the client. Again, this is what we're trying to set the stage for you here, is how are we going to fix these bad workflows? And while we're on this webinar, I'd love for you to jot down on a piece of paper. You could use paper still. I still have my notebook and I jot down notes in it all the time. I know it's not the most effective thing. And I actually do have a tablet. It's a tablet thing. I forget what it's called. And, and it turns and it can connect to my computer and all that. I could do all of that, but I really still like this. But I want you to start marking down and thinking about now, what were those workflows that were not that great during tax season? Okay. That's something I want you to think about. So in this particular workflow, again, it was a defined workflow, but it wasn't very good. So we had working within that firm again. The firm did not know when the tax returns were ready to go. How would they possibly know? Because the workflow was there was a drawer in the main office, and in the drawer were tax returns. So in order for you to know if a tax return was ready to start, you go to the main drawer in the main office area, go into your drawer, look and see the physical folders. Is everything even in here? And so the process was really, really manual and antiquated. There was a manual stamp. We'd have to print. Every tax return was printed. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I maybe print 5 returns a tax season. And that's typically because there's somebody that has come in. I probably have 8 appointments now. Most people are all just done electronically. They're just getting us their tax documents and off we go, and it's good. But we would manually stamp them, print them, collect the tax returns. It was just client would pick up the return or the assistant would mail out the return, the person in the main office. And I specifically remember the assistant had 2 tax returns on the counter and had the envelopes all ready to go. And the tax returns were swapped out. So 2 clients got other people's tax returns. That's not a really good workflow, is it? Right? And so we end up finding that workflow was so manual and that needed to change. And again, I'm just trying to give you some examples of, if you're doing some of this stuff, we got to talk about it, right? Let's start getting more automated, more workflow that is utilizing technology so you can be productive, not busy. Okay. That's what I want to hear you say. Okay. So again, just not that great. Now, let's talk about all the good stuff. And I'm going to walk through some of these workflows with you because it's super important that if you don't have a good workflow, and if you're looking for a workflow, throw that in the chat or put it in the Q&A. You're like, Brolin, how do you do this? How does this work for you? Because really at the end of the day, it matters to the client. Now, on the previous one where the tax return went to the wrong person, can you imagine what that client experience was? They got somebody else's tax return in the mail. Just not a good look. Clients get pretty upset about something like that. So again, it's an error. It's a mistake. Nobody meant to do it, but those are really big ones. We can't be having that. So automation, and we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to show you how Financial Sense does some really great automations. We're not doing a demo, but I got a couple screenshots to show you at how easy it is to make things automated and to be able to track it. But a good workflow remains the same no matter who the client is. Now, earlier I explained to you how if I'm out at a restaurant and somebody says, I want you to be my accountant, and I say, oh, yeah, no problem. Here's my cell phone number. Text me and we'll get you onboarded. That's not it. What it should be, what our process is, no matter who it is, it could be my uncle, it could be my sister. I don't have a sister, but it could be a cousin, it could be a niece, it could be a nephew, whoever, your parents. Doesn't matter who the client is, it's got to remain the same. And that's where I know for me was really brutal. Okay. Making it consistent, like I said before, consistent, clear, that everyone on the team knows it. Great workflow. Standards and expectations are shared at the start. Again, like I said in my video, I really outline those expectations and the way that this is the way we're going to do this, folks. You know why? Because I'm the accountant. I'm the tax preparer. You are the taxpayer, right? So for you, I need to be the leader. Sometimes we let the clients lead, folks. Don't let the clients lead the way. It only is going to go the wrong way. Setting those standards and expectations is part of your workflow. Understanding what that particular client needs from the start. Okay. So that's part of the work. What's part of your workflow? So for us, I'll tell you, I'm going to walk through a little bit of this in a little bit, but for our workflow, for the client knows you're communicating with Tracy. So if I'm communicating with them from the start, they're going to think I need to communicate with them through the process. If I put Tracy at the forefront, some of them think Tracy prepares their tax returns. That's how involved Tracy is with the clients. Okay. So understanding that the client knows from the start, Tracy is your person. You have questions, you need things, you're calling Tracy, you're not calling me. So in the restaurant, here you go. I don't have business cards. Sorry. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's not part of my process, but just jot it down on a napkin or a piece of paper. Here you go. This is Tracy's phone number. You got to call her. I can't get involved in the onboarding process because it only gets broken. And that's really important. It helps us work much more effectively. The client is going to receive exactly what they're expecting to receive because you've outlined it. And that is really, really critical. I want to just pop in here to the chat. I love this. Okay, so great. Caitlin's an employee trying to implement workflows, but I'm meeting pushback from the owners. Oh, yes. No documented workflows. Caitlin, I feel you, especially for those of you who are not really the decision makers. And so it's very possible, I will tell you that, Caitlin, if you outline what the processes currently are, and again, trying to get in front of them, I understand, it's just been really, the softball season in which we do taxes just really kind of ended, and not for you in Canada, but sitting down and you actually documenting the workflows and then suggesting, okay, this is how the workflow is working now, today. Here's where I think the workflow has to move to, but they may not even know the workflow that other people are doing. So if you have multiple people in the firm, I would almost interview each one of them to say, what is your process when you prepare a tax return? Or what is your process when you're doing the bookkeeping? Because I bet you've got, and I don't know if you've got multiple employees, Caitlin, I'm making an assumption, but sounds like you might. And if people are all doing different things, the partners, or that's the stuff they need to know. Well, just so you know, this person's doing it this way. And oh, this is how this client got onboarded, but this one got onboarded this way. And showing them where those flaws are might help. I'm hoping that that's a good suggestion for you. So Kristen, I don't know about other people. I'm about 97% of my work is done remotely, virtually. I don't meet with clients unless I jump on a call. I've got questions for them. We do a Zoom or whatever. But we are almost 100% virtual with what we have. I just have some local clients. Actually, it's really cute. I have a couple of ladies who were in my neighborhood when I was a kid, and they would feed us and stuff like that. So they like to come in to see me, and we reminisce over Chapel Street. We talk about when they used to make lunches, and we go through all of that. So I like to let them come in, but for the most part, we're doing virtual. And then Hope wants to know, What is your workflow for tax resolution for a new client who has received a tax notice? Yes, that's a great one. And I'm going to definitely go through that for you. So just stay tuned. We're going to get to that. Looking to make workflow more efficient. I love that too. Not tech savvy, in person and paper. Okay, Vicky, that's all right. That doesn't mean you can't still get, yeah, you've got a subset of clients that are over 70, not tech savvy. I totally get that. Yeah. And you know, and it really, you know, that's the whole point of having a clear process and workflow for determining your ideal client. My ideal client is somebody who's willing to get me their tax information, let me do their tax return, communicate with them, and we move on. Those are like ideal clients to me. Heavy lifters who want to talk 70 times about their tax return and have me discuss tax law with them and go through all the whys of everything are not my people, but they may be someone else's, and that's okay. And so that having that determination sometimes helps. Yep, some are your best paying clients. I got you, Crystal. Same clients insist on or willing to pay me to continue to do everything via paper. So paper clients in financial sense, that's awesome. So Crystal's got the people, paper clients in financial sense. I love that. So to be more efficient with those elderly clients, I understand that that's the one thing I will tell you. The client will let you know if they're struggling with that. I have people that still drop off their tax returns. So they'll be like, oh, even a new client. Well, if they're local, they're like, oh, we're just going to come by and drop off our tax return. Okay, I'm cool with that, the prior year return. Or we're going to come by and drop off our documents. Okay, I'll meet them where they are. But if they're like, this was a really big mistake. I had a new client this year. He came in, he literally was a 1040 and a 1098 for mortgage interest. And he was in here for 50 minutes. It was a $350 tax return. I lost so much money, and it could have been a 15-minute return, 10-minute return. But so that's one of the key things is as you're going through and you get these new clients and you're not, I'm thinking this guy's just going to come in, drop his stuff off and leave. And boy, he wanted to stay and hang out for a while. I don't have time for that. Okay, multiple tax preparers and bookkeepers, Caitlin. So that's definitely something I would do is I would interview them and find out what their workflow is and then report that back. I bet the partners would be interested in that. Yep. So Nick started tracking difficult clients who call and ask 100 questions so I can price accordingly next year. We increased a client's $2,000, their return by $2,000 this year. And he said to me, because of that, because they would want to, Ken, you're so cute. This guy wanted to be, we got on, I think, 4 Zoom calls last year, and we go through every single form. He wants to go, and he's an extremely intelligent man, got a lot of money, good guy. I like him, but he wants to have 3 or 4 1-hour Zoom calls with me. And I increased their price $2,000. And he was like, oh, but my return is going to be a little bit easier this year because we no longer have this partnership. And I said, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that we get on 3 or 4 calls and it takes a lot of time to do that. And I just can't do that for free. I'm preparing the return and then I'm meeting with you 4 times. And so again, workflow, having a workflow to track that. I love that. Yes, 350, Deb. I was like, okay, the guy's got a W-2 and a 1098. I got his son. Actually, his son brought him to me as a client. He's got like 7 rental properties. We do a lot of work with him. So I was giving the guy a deal. Yeah, mistake, right? We learned the hard way. Awful, right? So anyway, so good workflow. That's what we're looking for. And let me show you why. Because here's the thing, folks, for you to invest, by the way, it's not spending time, it's investing time on your workflow. Investing time in your workflow is going to allow you to do things like this. This is why I work as hard as I do. Of course, my family, we all work for our family. We all love our family. But I have this unbelievable passion for softball and these college kids. And so because I have an effective workflow, and we're going to talk about automations in a minute. So some of you have been asking about that. Coaching college softball during tax season. And it's because of my workflow and the technology that I use and the automations that I implemented that allow me to make sure I don't miss games. And that I think everyone needs a why. And I would love for you to throw in the chat what your why is. You have to have a why. And so again, you have to be working hard for something other than money, right? Now, I'm able to volunteer coach because I make plenty of money in my firm. I'm able to let her hire an assistant coach. D3 or D3, man. You know what? We're poor. D3, it's pay to play, man. So I love that I'm able to do that and be able to coach college softball and not have to worry about the money side of it. And so that's my why. I thought I love to share that with everybody. Okay, so let's talk about I want to better my family. Natasha, I love that. Absolutely. Being able to do those things. Nick's going to fly to London tonight. He wants to travel the world. If you don't have workflows in place, things are going to fall apart on you while you're gone. Okay. Documenting your process. So I love that we have people in here that working for that, right? Workflow and pricing help, Kristen. We got you, girl. I'm just telling you right now, we got you. So who was it? It was Caitlin. So Caitlin, documenting your process, invest your time, right? All right, Nancy, she's a softball coach in Canada. Hey, you know what, Nancy? We have a kid from Canada on our team. Her name's Alyssa. She is such an amazing kid. She's our pitcher, and she's from Canada. So we stole one from you. Love that kid. Anyway, back to workflow. Identifying bottlenecks or current issues. That's what I want you to be doing today. I want you to be documenting, hey, this is a struggle for me. Some of you identified, okay, I've got pricing problems. We've got to figure out what's going on there. Identifying those bottlenecks. Where is the ball being dropped? Utilizing project management tools. Okay, not Excel is not a project management tool. And I'm saying that because people are still using Excel. Do you know how I know this? Because I run Dawn's Dugout. It's on Mondays. I do one Monday a month. And I had somebody in my dugout, I think it was in March, and they were still using Excel for their workflow. Excel is not going to have automate unless you're like an Excel guru where you like know how to automate things in Excel, which I don't think is even possible, but I don't know. You've got to have that management tool so everyone can be on the same page. Finding that technology that can help correct those spots that are in your broken workflow. It's really important. How do you tell the client that they are the bottleneck, Tracy? You are so spot on. You know, honestly, in my video, and it's on Loom, I think you can probably find it. I think people actually view my videos. It's kind of funny. These are videos that I really send to my clients, by the way. Okay. So I set those, and we talked about this earlier, setting that client expectation. This is where that client relationship is a struggle because we're frustrated with them. We're frustrated with them because they're not getting us their client documents. Maybe it's bank statements. Maybe you struggle because you can't get the stinking code from them when you need to log in and grab bank statements, whatever it may be. We got to figure out the technology to help you fix that. Right. And I think that that's really, really important. How do we tell the clients they're the bottleneck? You tell them. So in my video, I said to them, listen, here's a couple of reasons why I'm making you prepay. Number one, some of you are not really good at getting me your stuff timely. I'm making you pay up front. Now you've got some skin in the game. So maybe you will get me your documents a little bit faster this year. I also told them, listen, I am not interested in doing extension season. We have last year, setting this expectation. Last year, I had 90 extensions. Now, I'm not a huge firm. I'm the only one who prepares tax returns here at Powerful Accounting. So I do around 230, 240 tax returns, total, business and individuals, small. Last year, I had 90 extensions. This year, 30. Why do I only have 30? I attribute to making people prepay. And I also called them out. And it was pretty funny too, because I have this one couple that comes in. They're so fun and awesome. And they came in and they were like, Brolin, we loved your video. It was hilarious. He's like, I love the fact that you pay us up front. You're going to pay up front. We got our appointment in as earlier though they've ever been in here before in February, had their stuff all together. And then we started joking around about next year. I said, did you catch the fact that your price is going to go up next year? Oh, they were cracking up. And so they said that was like genius to tell us that we are the ones who are holding you back. And we are the ones who are causing you to have this huge extension season. And I said, yeah, I figure you see something, say something. That's what they taught me in school. See something, say something. So again, just trying to think about how Rachel, we'll get that video. We got to get that video. It's on Loom. I don't know if you can find Dawn Brolin on Loom. I don't even know if that's a thing, but the video clearly explains how it's going to go. And I have a client video for the returning clients. So they're of a different message. For new clients, they get a little different of a message. Hey, welcome to Powerful Accounting. We're excited to be working with you. Let me explain how we operate here. And I give them a little bit more of the lowdown than the recurring clients, because the recurring clients know what to expect. And I call them out. The new clients are now being set up for success. This is how we do prepay. This is how it's going to work. This is how it goes. And it really has been an amazing success for us in the way that we've operated. So I want to get a little bit into financial sense and how we're actually using it. And hopefully it's going to help some of you. I know Deb's just getting herself set up and getting moving with it. Hopefully this will give you a few tips or tricks at the way I operate within financial sense and how we work our workflow. And I wanted to talk to you about this onboarding workflow. And I'm giving you pieces of the way we define things. So our workflow is Tracy gets on a call. So this is a little bit after this has happened. So new client calls up, Tracy handles them. She puts them into SmartVault, into this section where they're not in the client section yet, because they're not a client yet. They're in this non-client section, and we have them upload their tax return the prior year. She puts a appointment in my calendar. She takes notes. She talks to the client. She knows how to talk to people. She knows what we're looking for. She's been with me for almost 8 years now. She knows our process. She knows what I need from the client. And so she goes ahead and puts in my calendar, gives me a link in my calendar to SmartVault. So all I do is click the link, bring up the form, pull up Ignition, do my pricing, got my video already done anyway, bang, bang, bang. And usually within 5 minutes, unless it's a big return, which I'm not a big fancy tax preparer. I don't do really complicated returns. That's not my wheelhouse. I stay in my lane. So the onboarding process, then I send out that proposal. And until they pay and sign, ain't nobody here cares. They're not a client yet. Until they pay, then not one thing is going to move forward. So let's just say they've accepted the engagement, and here's what happens. Tracy goes in, she confirms the client is in Liscio. That's the key. We start with Liscio because Liscio will feed through to QBO, which feeds through to Ignition, which feeds through to Financial Sense. Everything's all connected, doing what it's supposed to do. So we get all of that done. They approve the quote, tax organizer, which we're changing our process this year. Our workflow is changing again this year with regards to tax organizers. We're really, really excited about it. Ashley, if you go to dawnbrolin.com and you go to the starting lineup, I have what I call the field of dreams, man. And it's a diagram with all of my workflow on it. So you can just go grab that. And for those of you who are having pricing struggles, you can go up. If you do the free resources, you just have to opt in with your email. You can go and see all my by the form pricing that I do. So here we go. We've got the workflow here, quotes approved, send SmartVault, doing all that stuff. We are going to use Liscio Tax Organizer for 2025. That I just went through a whole bunch of that I've been working with. And the workflow is going to be beautiful for the tax organizer. It will also help gather the tax documents and different things like that. Is really exciting. We use Liscio to do our communications. Like people want to message and text and do things like that. And so that's what we try to use for our client communications. Anyway, so through this, you can see here that on the right, the assignees, you'll see that I'm in charge of the proposal. Tracy's in charge of sending the organizer, sending the client link, the SmartVault tax upload folder, which is historically how we did it. We're going to be changing it this year. Confirms with the clients that bookkeeping's done. That's Nicole, because she's the bookkeeper. If this is a Schedule C or E, as you can see, this workflow is for a 1040 with Schedule C or E. For a 1040 without those, their workflow is a little different. Nicole isn't even involved in those. She's not an assignee on anything when it comes to just a 1040. She doesn't need to be involved in that. And then verifying all the forms and documents are received, all this stuff, Tracy handles all that. So you notice that I don't do anything until we get to the point where the documents are here. Okay. Now, what about automation? So I showed you that overview, which is the tasks in this previous, these are your tasks. So those are the particular tasks, but under those tasks may have subtasks. Some of them will, some of them won't. But in these other tasks, like e-filing the tax return, when I mark that part to be done, when the task is completed, that the e-file tax returns is done, it is going to turn this particular project, which is the tax return, to waiting on e-file accepted, and it gets assigned to Tracy. That task of waiting on e-file, so that now is going to be tagged to waiting on e-file accepted. Tracy monitors that. She's in Lacert. She's making sure things were accepted. She prints the acceptance form to SmartVault, but everything lands there. For us, SmartVault is the permanent document storage for everything we have, which is why I love Financial Sense, because it integrates with SmartVault, and that's where I live. Our documents live there. So we're just implementing a simple task automation in Financial Sense. Guess what that did? Eliminated us manually having to go in and change the tag to waiting on e-file accept. And so because we set up those automations, it's making our lives easier. So again, in this workflow, that was really more of the onboarding, what I showed you before, how I'm saying onboarding or just getting the tax season started with that particular client, that project. Then what'll happen is we get into the tax return preparation part, right? So I prepare the return, I review it, send them an email, shoot them an email. Hey, here's what's going on. Just an FYI, here you owe for federal, you got a refund for state, whatever the case may be. And then once I've sent that email, I tell them in the email, again, setting that great client expectation. They know this email's coming because this is how we operate, is what they're getting, linked to their return, all that kind of stuff. And then they can go ahead, do that. Then I send the 8879 and I say, hey, okay, now once I've marked that clear, that status, that tag is going to move to ready to e-file once that 8879 is signed. Tracy handles all that. I'll e-file the tax return, and then she'll print the e-file accept letter. The automation for the last piece there is it's marked completed, the tag that it's completed. And the project then obviously is then marked completed and we're all done. So that's a really effective workflow. The consistency, the client satisfaction, because of the way we automate that is critical. Okay. And I want to just, as we're looking through workflow, and let's just kind of go back to this one, because somebody asked about what is my workflow? And I don't think I put the screenshots in here for the client notice. But if a client gets a notice and a tax notice that we need to deal with, typically they're either emailing us or they've called the office and talked to Tracy and said, hey, I got a notice. Our process is we want them to upload that notice to SmartVault. That's what our process is today. That is going to change with Licio, the way some things are moving forward. More to come on that this summer, because we're going to be changing our automation. But at the end of the day, for the notice, we have them upload the tax notice. Once the notice is up there and I can read the notice to see what it's about, because one of two things have happened. I've screwed up, or they didn't provide me accurate information, and there's an adjustment to a tax return, right? I will, and this is part of their video, is if you get tax notices and it's something my fault, obviously I'm not going to charge you to remedy the problem. If it is somebody that, it's just a notice and there's adjustments to the return and I need to research it and figure out what's going on, or they owe money and they need to get into a payment plan, whatever, any of those things, they know up front it's $1,000 minimum for me to handle a notice. So the steps are: get the notice, let me read what the notice is about, let me figure out what the problem is. Then I'm going into Ignition and I'm sending them a new proposal, because it's tax resolution, it's not tax preparation, it's a new engagement. And I send them a bill for $1,000 and I tell them it's $500 an hour to rectify any notices, get you into a payment plan, whatever it may be. And it's $1,000 deposit up front, because the work is a minimum of $1,000. Why? Because of my experience in how to handle notices that come through the door. If I don't know how to handle them, I'll tell you the guy who does know how to handle them, Eric Green. And I got him on speed dial. And I'm like, Eric, this is a weird one. What do you think? And then we talk through it and onward we go. If I didn't have that resource and I wasn't able to figure things out, then I can't justify that kind of a price. But believe me, I rectify tax notices. So we'll get that $1,000 up front. Financial sense time tracking is great. So for resolution, we're tracking our time for resolution. I'm going in and I'm able to handle that and be able to take my notes and do all those kind of things, which I love. I'm just living in financial sense for everything there, right? And then once we get the notice rectified, I got to call the IRS, whatever it may be. For that notice, we have some standard workflow, but we add tasks for if it's a special situation, then we'll go ahead and add new tasks to that project. And so we kind of work through that as we go through. Post-tax season work projects, same thing, right? So what we're doing is we are, any new projects that come in, again, everything goes through the same process, no matter what. It's always call Tracy, get me whatever the issue is, let me find out what's going on, and then we have to decide whether we're going to send a proposal or we're just going to take care of the work and do it for them. If it's relationship pricing clients, they're on the relationship, man. We just take care of things that need to get taken care of. We do watch scope creep on that. Maybe we need to charge them a little extra, and that's okay too. As far as extensions in our workflow, Natasha, there's no real change in our workflow with extensions, with the exception of the tag. So in financial sense, when I'm tagging a task or I'm tagging a project, in my project, I'm going to say, okay, this is, so here's how we tag them. We say, when I go to put them on extension, I put waiting on extension acceptance is the tag. And that's assigned to Tracy. So in her view, she can filter her view to just show me all the stuff assigned to me that is waiting on extension accepted. She'll monitor Lacert. She sees it, maybe it was rejected. She puts it back in, puts a note in there. Hey, it was rejected, blah, 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 tags it back to me now. And it's sitting ready to put on extension again. I have to go in and find out what the diagnostic is, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's a 1095A that they're required to file. So the workflow with extensions is the same. It's just we tag it to say, and then we'll say on extension or extension accepted, and we leave it there till the 15th. So they sit there on extension in financial sense. We know everybody. So we double check that list to Lacert. Now you have a double check. You have some due diligence. You have some back and forth. Make sure if we have 30 people in extension in Lacert, we better have 30 people in financial sense on extension. The day after the 15th, maybe a day or two later, Tracy will go into financial sense into that view, and she will change their tag in financial sense to say ready to start, because maybe they were ready to start. I just didn't get to them. She'll mark them ready to start, assign them to me. She will go into each one of those, still waiting on client. It could be waiting on business return, whatever the true status is of that extension project gets re-tagged after the extensions are going past. And so that works out really well. How do you get someone like Tracy? Oh, Lord, Natalie. Tracy is interesting. She used to work for a food service place. Not a restaurant, but like they sell foods to grocery stores and stuff and restaurants. Anyway, whatever. So she came to me and I found a diamond in the rough. I think she is unbelievable. What you need to find is somebody that is very personable, very patient, very kind, someone that can handle a little bit of stress when a client calls and they're upset about something and that kind of stuff. I know that, is it Kristen Keats? She's somebody you could reach out to. She seems to be helping people find a Tracy. That's, I guess, what I would say. That's Kristen Keats. So you can go find her on LinkedIn. She's awesome. So anyway, that's kind of how we handle the extensions. And then it's just business as usual. We're off just like we were in tax season, and we're monitoring everybody's return at that point. Okay. So we want that full transparency. We want the clients to be satisfied. I never want to have to reach out to a client twice. Right. So hopefully that is resonating with you, that the client experience really depends on your workflow and how you're tracking your workflow. And again, like I said before, you are investing your time into this particular process, right? And the process does matter. And I know there's going to be some minor exceptions to the rule, really minor. You want to have consistency and transparency for both your clients and for your staff. The clients want you to set the process. They know you're the expert. You've got to set those expectations. I think that's Keats. I'm going to look in my phone real quick and I'm going to tell you, because I spelled her name wrong and she kind of like busted on me about it. She's so funny. Kristen Keats. It's Keates, or that's probably wrong. It's probably Keats that way. Anyway, you want to have her, right? So she can help you find an assistant. But think about how that client wants. They want you to lead the way. All right. So is there a way in Financial Sense to filter projects by excluding a certain tag, not wanting waiting on e-file or not waiting on client? I'm not sure if I understand that question, Nancy, but I know that for me, I'll go in if I want a bunch of different tags. You should be able to do that because you can pull your list of tags up and click all the ones you want in a particular view, which by the way, you can save them. You can save the views. So for us, I'll have Tracy's work and I have Dawn's work, I have Nicole's work, and then I just want to see clients that are ready to start. And so I have that view in my dashboard. I call it my dashboard view. And it'll say, okay, because when Dawn Brolin is in here, she's productive. I only care about what work needs to get done. Right? Yes, Rachel. They're like having kids. They thrive with clear boundaries and direction. Absolutely. Yeah. So filtering the tags, you can do that. You can just choose the tags you want. You can save certain views so that you can and you have a menu. It's kind of like a drop down. You can pick the different view. Go, I need to work on returns today. The only thing I care about today is those that are ready to start. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Today I need to make sure I'm focusing on putting people on extension. I just want to see people that need to go on extension. What are those? Which projects are tagged for going on extension? Like, so you can really be laser focused in your work, in what you're actually doing for work, because your workflow is systematized so that you can focus on certain things on certain days. There's, 4 out of 5 days, Dawn Brolin needs to be doing tax returns. I don't have time to be checking my email. I don't come into my office and check my email. What is that workflow for you? Are you disciplined? I don't come into my office and look at my email. I come into my office and I go into Financial Sense and I look to see what work needs to be done. And so sometimes Tracy will tell me which ones are priority. This person's called 3 times. This person has called twice, whatever. So she's able to give me some priorities as well. But at the end of the day, because I have that workflow, everything is consistent. Efficiencies are built up. I want to be efficient and I want to be productive. I don't want to be busy. I never want to be busy. I've been busy before. I've done 80 hours a work week. Anybody ever had that? Right? Yes. So Nancy, sometimes we want to see, for example, client work that is ready to go, but don't want to see clients who have waiting. Yes, 100% it does that, Nancy. And I know that we're getting some screenshots going in here for you in the chat. But implementing that technology and tools to help you is critical. If you're doing some of these things manually and you don't have a really great process, it is time today to implement a technology and a tool that's going to be able to help you, Nancy, filter reports, filter a view so that you can be, again, productive in what you're doing. One of the things that I also found when I set up a technology like Financial Sense is let them help you. The support team at Financial Sense is like no other. It is like absolutely no other. You need help. If you're not getting it, you might be looking in the wrong place. You can always reach out to me. I'll help you. But at the end of the day, implementing those technologies are going to help you. So if you now today do not have a workflow tool that is allowing you to do these types of things, today is your day to be successful. Okay. If you go, you can start up a 14-day free trial, play around with it a little bit. Nothing wrong with that. We just put up a little demo, a little poll about getting a personalized demo of Financial Sense. I just want to give you a couple of reasons why I had to move to Financial Sense, okay? I had to move to Financial Sense because of the transparency it gives me across my entire firm. The information that you can put and the flexibility that Financial Sense gives us in our firm. For example, when you're looking at the client information screen, I have their EIN, I have the date the business started, I know what industry they're in, I know how many employees they have. Where are they? Well, everybody's an ADP for us, but all those things, all the things, as we say, are in Financial Sense. And it integrates the integration, the technology improvements that Sharam and his team and Abdullah, those guys are doing. It's literally yes, it is a game changer. Who said that? I'm looking. Rachel. Yep, using it in your office for over a year. It is a game changer, and it is our Bible, she says. And it is. It's the truth of what's happening within your firm, folks. It's got time tracking, all those things that you need to be able to track everything you do. With integrations, we use SmartVault. So we have an integration with SmartVault, integration with QBO, all those kind of things. I've used Carbon, I've used Canopy, and we found that Financial Sense was absolutely a game changer, right? So I'm thinking that you guys are going to be as successful as we are. And this one I just love. I just want to tell you the next dugout is May 13th, from 2 to 3 and 4 to 5. Really excited about it. We talk about this stuff. Sometimes I pull up my real live data because we're not recording. We're recording here. We don't record the dugout. And, I can show you some real life examples of things that I'm doing. If you want more information on different things, different tools that we're using, you're welcome to come. You can go to dawnbrolin.com and register there, or you can use this little QR code and register now for May 13th. But I do once a month. So check the website when you want to come. Happy to help you out. But we're thriving over here. I want you to thrive with me. We've got to get it done. And so, thank you guys so much for being here today. Otherwise, I'd be talking to myself. Get yourself a free 14-day trial. Invest the time, folks. Remember, you're not spending time, you're investing time. And I really hope to see you in some upcoming conferences. And as a conference season starts up, my first one will be actually in Maryland Society of Accounting and Tax Professionals in June, and then off to Scaling New Heights. So I'm hoping to see all of you there. And, enjoy the rest of your day. And I hope you're not doing extensions through September and October, because you should be out on a boat somewhere if you're not in the middle of the country, or if you are, maybe on a lake. I don't know. But thank you all so much for coming today. This has been my pleasure. I'm here if you ever need anything. Your designated motivator. Let's get it done, folks. Thanks so much. Take care.